Okay, so hello everybody. I know it's late, it's Friday, and it's the last panel of the second day of this event, but even so, I still invite and welcome you to attend this panel because we have, like our colleague said, a revolutionary subject, buy now and pay later. And before we go deeper into this subject, I will take the opportunity to introduce myself and my colleagues. So my name is Elisa Rusu and I'm CEO of online fintech platform OmniCredit. We provide financing for small and medium enterprises in a couple of hours, the kind of enterprises which are struggling with liquidities. And now I would like to introduce my colleagues. So who would like to start?
I can go first.
Okay.
So hello and good afternoon, and actually good evening, almost evening, and I hope we'll keep actually the audience with a focus and attention on this interesting topic. I'm Kostas Stovil, and I'm representing TBI Bank. A couple of words for TBI Bank very briefly. We are a challenger bank in Southeastern Europe with the core markets in Romania and Bulgaria. Our actually model of operation has two directions. First of all, we are a financial and shopping enabler for our customers. And then we are, for our merchant partners, a buy now, pay later provider. We have more than 12,000 partnerships in Romania and Bulgaria where we operate. Just in Romania, we have 5,000 of those. And over and above, by buy now, pay later, we'll explain a bit further on in the discussion what we mean and what buy now, pay later actually is. We offer to our merchant partners an ecosystem of services. So, for example, they can sell their products with installments. They can actually get reports. They can get statistics. They can even finance their business customers. So we are offering all these solutions under the merchant portal. And plus, now these days, we're also beta testing a solution where we can be like a broker, and the merchants can decide in which financial institution they would like actually to serve their customers who want to finance something. This is in brief. This is who we are. Thank you.
Jean-Michel, maybe?
Yes, with pleasure. So good evening, everybody. So as Kostas said, I hope we will manage to keep you very attentive, despite the fact that we are Friday evening, and I think it's a long weekend in Romania. So I hope you will not be bored, but I think the subject is very interesting. So it's worth to spend 1 hour to listen. So a few words about me. I am the CEO of ONE Romania. So ONE, I think it's still not really well known, I would say, in Romania. So I will give you a few words about ONE worldwide. So what we can say is that we are specialized in consumer finance on payment business. With one particular thing is the fact that we have a strong retail DNA, I would say, because we have two shareholders. One is BPCE, the second biggest bank in France. And one is one of the biggest retailer in Europe. It's called Mulliez Family. So we are owner of Auchan, Leroy Merlin, Decathlon, and other brands. So that's why I really focus on the fact that we have a retail DNA. So a few words also about us. We are present in 12 countries. We have 8 million clients. And the objective is clearly to become one of the leaders in buy now, pay later, because we are already present in 7 countries. For instance, in France, we already start to propose these products since 2008, and we have around 31% of market share in buy now, pay later. We work with more than 1,000 partners on 10,000 contact points because we are multi-channel. Just a few words about Romania. Romania, we launched a solution of buy now, pay later in 2021. And we can say that we have a great success since the beginning of the year because we already attract around 40% of the top 50 e-commerce platform in Romania. So we are working with the biggest e-retailers and retailers, let's say, in Romania. And now we are also planning to accelerate also in offline business because we start with online now the idea is to develop the offline part. I try to be very short in terms of presentation.
Thank you. Andrei?
Hi, Elisa, and hello, everyone. Just want to make sure that you can hear me.
Yes.
Great, perfect. Question of the year. Can you hear me?
Of the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's been 2 years, exactly. So I'm Andrei Dogaru. I run product development for Filbo. Filbo is a Romanian fintech for small businesses, freelancers, sole traders. So all in all, in Romania, we're looking at a market of close to 1 million potential clients. I think it's fair to say that Filbo is the new kid on the block in terms of small business fintechs. We were born slightly more than a year ago. And since then, we launched and we have been operating our web and mobile apps where small businesses and freelancers can apply in just a couple of minutes for unsecured loans. And we are now starting our journey with Buy Now, Pay Later, a B2B version of Buy Now, Pay Later, which is a first in the Romanian market. And we're really excited about some of the use cases that we can build around Buy Now, Pay Later and embedded finance for small businesses. And I think we're going to talk more during this panel.
Okay, thank you, Andrei. As almost all of you mentioned Buy Now, Pay Later, maybe we should approach the first subject of the panel and to explain to everybody what Buy Now, Pay Later means and how this slogan, let's say, can help all merchants to increase their sales, even he has a physical store or online business or omnichannel business. So maybe Andrei, you will start to talk about this, what Buy Now, Pay Later means and how it
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I think the technical definition is Buy Now, Pay Later is a super fast, super digital way of consumers and small businesses to get financing at the point of sale. I think the way we like to look at it is in the larger context of a growing trend called embedded finance. And simply put, embedded finance allows companies who are not providers of financial services to embed financial products in their existing customer journeys. And I think that's extremely powerful from a customer experience point of view because it challenges the current status quo, which is if a consumer or a small business needs financial products, they need to go to where financial products are. As opposed to in a Buy Now, Pay Later, in an embedded finance world, financing goes where the client is. And I think that's extremely powerful and valuable for clients. Last but not least, I think we do have to admit something which is very uncomfortable for us as bankers or ex-bankers, and that's no one wants to get a loan. I mean, let's face it, no one wants to get a loan. There has never been a conversation in which someone said, "Oh, you want to grab a beer? No, let's get a loan instead." People want to get jobs done. People want to buy an apartment. People want to renovate that apartment, and they go to Leroy Merlin for doing that. Small businesses need to replenish their inventories. It just happens that as part of their journey to get the job done, they need financial products along the way. And I think embedded finance is putting us on a path, is putting the industry on a path to what I really love calling invisible finance. So it's finance that if it's done properly, you don't even see it. You don't even know it's there. You just reap the benefit.
Okay, so you mentioned nobody wants to take a loan. Very interesting saying. So what do you think, guys, is true? Jean-Michel, what do you think is true? Do you agree with this?
I would say, I will not express like this. I think, I would say yes, nobody wants a loan. We have a need and we need to answer to a need on the what we call the solution, on financing solution. usually is should be seamless should answer to our needs. But it's true that more the process, and I really want to insist, and I will insist a little bit later on. For me, what is very important is clearly that the customers need to feel doesn't need to feel strongly the impact on the process, on the customer journey for obtaining a loan. It should be very smooth, because the most important is to obtain what they are dreaming to obtain. So he was talking about Leroy Merlin, because we work for Leroy Merlin. It's true that the customer, when he's coming to Leroy Merlin, is not thinking to finance something. He's thinking about the goods. After, he need to face some, let's say, budget difficulties, or the fact that he will have difficulty to finance immediately. So what I will say regarding the solution of buy now, pay later, I would say that we came with a real alternative of what is existing right now in consumer finance landscape, I would say, because right now, in terms of onboarding, in terms of KYC, the customer really feel it clearly, because the process is heavy, is long, and very often, 50% of the time you are refused. On clearly buy now, pay later, right now, it's something that bring a real alternative to make the process very smooth, with a very nice digital journey, with a nice customer journey. So I would say the customer is not coming for a loan, but we need to support him, and we need to support him in the best way, with the best customer journey, I will say. But concerning your question, just to come back to, because you asked also an additional question, is how it leveraging the sales of the retail partners, the buy now, pay later, because this is also one of the main questions that you are asking. For me, clearly the buy now, pay later is increasing the sales significantly. And I have an example. Since we start in Romania, we have already partners that we reach more than 10% of their e-commerce sales. So it's quite already amazing. On why? Because it brings clearly additional clients. The clients are very young clients as well, because they are not fan of what I explained, the traditional way of financing the goods with the AV process. What is also the beauty of the buy now, pay later, or at least the product that we are offering, is that compared to the market, which is very right now in terms of acquisition, which is really connected on credit cards, we came with an alternative that address all the cards, not only the credit card, but all the debit cards. So a solution, for instance, allow the e-commerce or the retailer, let's say globally, to address all the market immediately with a customer journey that is less than 30 seconds. So it's a real alternative to the credit card business, and that's why for me on the consumer finance, let's say historical or traditional way of financing, it's really bringing additional customer. The other point that we saw with our partners is that as it's smooth, we really strongly increase the average basket of the retailer, because we see in our statistic that usually the average basket is increasing between 30% and 50%. So that's why the retailer are very, very interested by this type of product. I would say also that it's as it's smooth, as the customer journey, it's simple, and as it's very cheap for the customer, because usually buy now, pay later, we reverse the model, so the retailer are charged on the customer, usually obtain this solution for free. It's a real also engagement solution, because the customer like it, it's smooth. It takes less than 30 seconds. So usually we is doing again and again. So we can say that it's a kind of engagement solution, much better than the traditional way of, let's say, consumer finance. And the particularity also of this product is usually we propose a higher acceptance rate. For instance, in west of Europe, we are accepting already more than 80% of the customer. For Romania, as we are starting, it's a bit lower, but the objective is really to try to accept as much as possible customers. So just to summarize, free for the customer, smooth customer journey, increase of average basket, engagement solution. So of course, at the end, it increased significantly the sales of the e-commerce on the retailers. So this is what we saw from the statistic on the result that we have with our partners.
Thank you, Jean-Michel. Costas, what do you think you have to add here?
Well, actually, I will take the following position in terms of explanation. So for the benefit of the audience as well, buy now, pay later is not something new. I mean, as also Andrea said, buy now, pay later has existed for decades. It has been a store credit. It has been coming in different variations. What has actually changed in the recent period is actually the technology has made it either embedded, either agnostic. It has actually given the opportunity to be widely available to many industries of retailers. And also it has become much faster and much more easier for the consumers. Now, in terms of what buy now, pay later is, buy now, pay later is this ability of a customer to split his payments. So it can be a short-term buy now, pay later, let's say in 3-4 installments. It can be a longer-term buy now, pay later. It can be buy now, pay later, or you can find in a physical store. It can be a buy now, pay later that you can find online, or anything in between, like an omni-channel. These are all the things that we, for example, as TBI, not only Romania, but generally our group, offers as a package, because it is true that, you know, every merchant is multidimensional. He may have different needs, different customer profiles, meaning that some customers are comfortable to split the solution into 3, especially, you know, if we're talking about some high velocity like fashion or cosmetics and so on. But some other longer tenor products, like if you want to buy a television or a couch, or if you want to buy something, you need it in a longer tenor. Therefore, you need to be relevant to the market. You need to be next to your partners in order for you to adjust the product proposition. In some cases, you have to approve instantaneously, like we do. In some of the cases, you need actually to collect one more document in order to make sure that you're fully compliant with rules and regulations. But at the end, the point of buy now, pay later is that it has to come in any form and in any variation. And that's what in TBI we're actually looking to offer to the 1,000 e-commerce merchants we have currently onboarded, and the 5,000 with physical presence, in order for us to be able to finance from a car up until to a perfume, and to do this seamlessly and very quickly. Because at the end of the day, that's what technology is offering us. You know, somebody who wants to buy a 20 euro perfume, okay, that's a cheap perfume, but let's say it's a good one at 20 euro, up to the point where he wants to buy a 10,000 car, to be paperless, very fast, instant, and gratifying. And of course, help the merchant at the end of the day to increase overall his sales. That was my point actually on how TBI is, and to explain to the audience.
Thank you, Costas. Actually, I think very interesting that you mentioned that buy now, pay later is existing for decades already. And we are talking actually about how we do this product in, let's say, digitalization years. Okay, so maybe we'll talk now about how the European market looks in this product, buy now, pay later, and how Romania is doing comparing to Europe. Costas, maybe you would like to mention some things.
Yes, indeed. Actually, it has become, in the last couple of years, I guess, buy now, pay later has been a hot topic in the news, and we have seen some companies growing in extreme sizes, like a firm like Klarna, like Afterpay, who was recently bought by Stripe. So we have seen some extreme valuations for the reason that it is, although it is a standard practice that has been for decades, like store credit, it has suddenly, because of the growth of e-commerce, has become much more accessible to the masses. And it is an alternative form of financing in reality, meaning it is taking away from what Andrei described before, nobody wants to take a loan, so you don't need to make a travel to the bank. So it is bringing an embedded experience of instant lending, and moreover, it is a form of financing which is high velocity, meaning it is now available also to small tickets. So therefore, This is, the reason of the growth in Europe, but not only Europe, but also in Asia and the States. I think in reality, what is happening with buy now pay later, it is taking a big stake from the credit card business. So where it used to be that somebody was applying for a credit card to buy a product, right now he doesn't need to do that, and for a good reason, because credit cards are coming with some fees, annual fees, late payment fees, and so on and so forth. There is some interest rate, so this is coming as a much more transparent in reality product, more easy to understand for the millennials and even the newer generation, but not only, I mean, it's an all-inclusive product. And I think this is what it's giving the speed. It's transparency, it's a clarity, it's a presence everywhere in terms of being an embedded finance. And I think we will continue for the next years to see more growth here.
Thank you, Costas. Even free sometimes for customers, as Jean-Michel mentioned. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jean-Michel, what about
about your question about European market? It's true. We have a lot of information because, as I explained, we are present. We propose already in 7 countries. Buy now pay later solutions are really booming in Europe because the solution is really disrupting the consumer finance. Due probably also to the acceleration of online on pandemic, the pandemic probably accelerate also the usage. You have to understand that right now 8% of the digital payment in Europe are done with buy now pay later. So it represents already 50 billion euro on the market. So it's already something very huge. On all the specialists are now expecting some growth between the next 5 years between 20 and 30%. So we on Costa mentioned when we look at the valorization of some companies that he mentioned, we already understand that something it happens in this market because the value of this company, even if they are not profitable, they are already bigger than the biggest banks in Europe. So we understand that the potential of this market is very huge. The beauty also of this product in Europe is the fact that it attracts profile of clients that are very young. So all the generation up to 35 years, they are really the big user. And we see already it in Romania because we have already 60% of clients in buy now pay later that have lower than 40 years. Which is also something that shows that this is the next trend. I have also a statistic that we made with friends that 7 European out of 10 will change the brand if the brand doesn't propose this type of solution. So again, we see that the potential is very huge on probably the consumer finance will really move on this direction. Now, if we focus a little bit in Romania, because I forgot to mention also why 8%? 8% because in Germany, for instance, or in Sweden, or in Nordics, you already have more than 20% of penetration rate. So what I believe regarding Romania is now we are still, let's say, in an emerging market, probably because the credit card with installment is much more present here in Romania because in West of Europe, we see more the credit card as a revolving alternative. But in Romania is still emerging. But I guess that with the awareness on what we saw right now from the beginning of the year, this is probably a trend in Romania that will be the same as we are seeing in other countries, probably with a delay in terms of years, but I cannot imagine that Romania will not also see the same move as we are seeing in the west of Europe and in the north of Europe. So yeah, to conclude is in Europe, it's already something that is really strong and really disrupting the market, as he mentioned with the Klarna valorization, for instance.
Thank you. Yes, I changed the brand of my perfume already 3 times, I think, this month. So maybe, Costas, we should talk about buy now, pay later, because you said even for perfumes you have this product. Yes.
We have, that we are present in the for instance.
Yeah, indeed, of course, I can make you a very good offer from a
Andrei, what do you think about the Romanian market?
Well, so I'll give a bit a flavor of how we see the Romanian market on the B2B side. But before that, I want to comment on something really interesting that Costas mentioned, which is how buy now pay later solutions are really taking a slice from the credit card pie, right? So if we look at the US, which is the biggest credit card market in the world, so the US has a population of 300 million, and they have 1 billion with a B credit cards active, right? Romania, just as a comparison, has 18 million people with what 2.83 million credit cards. So I mean the discrepancy is massive. Even in a super developed market like the US, just last year, and I'm sure this year the numbers are even better, but just last year, buy now pay later solutions are already close to 10% of outstanding unsecured balances for retail. So actually for consumers and small businesses added. So it's the only unsecured credit segment that had double-digit growth last year in the US. And that was close to 20%, as Jean-Michel mentioned as well. So I mean, banks should be very worried. Established banks with existing offerings in terms of zero interest, equal payment plans. Definitely, if we look at the European and the US experience, they should be very worried. Now, looking a little bit on the B2B segment, so both Costas and Jean-Michel mentioned some crazy valuations, which I think is really a statement of our times. Just a few weeks ago, we had a really interesting news coming from Germany with a German fintech called Billy from Billing. Which is a B2B fintech with a B2B buy now pay later offering, which just raised a Series C of 100 million, valuation close to 700 million. And interestingly enough, Klarna is one of the investors. So instead of developing their own B2B buy now pay later platform, they decided to invest in another player. So that has a lot to do with how B2B financing is fundamentally different than retail in terms of credit underwriting, and I guess we can discuss more about that topic, and in terms of KYC, AML, and other specificities of the B2B market. Now, looking at Romania, e-commerce has seen a fantastic growth over the last couple of years, accelerated by the pandemic. And that's on the consumer side. Things are not looking very great on the B2B side. So we still have, there was a recent study that came a few days ago that mentioned that close to 65% of B2B merchants in Romania have no immediate plans of selling online, right? So in that sense, I think buy now pay later or in a B2B model has the potential to accelerate the journey of Romanian B2B merchants towards digital, and I sincerely hope that will be the case.
Thank you, Andrei. So at the beginning of the discussion, you mentioned that you are the first provider for the buy now pay later for B2B companies, or did I misunderstand it?
No. You actually got that right. So I think I would.
Romania, I mean in Romania.
In Romania, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would. I mean, any good product starts with a good problem to solve. So perhaps we can take 1 or 2 minutes to talk about to talk about some of the key challenges that small businesses and freelancers face in Romania. So access to finance. 1 in 8 small businesses in Romania have access to a formal credit. 1 in 8. Romania is dead last in the European Union in terms of financial intermediation, and the small business segment has a big part to play in that. Now, if we look at some of the key user personas in terms of small businesses, let's think about a small commerce business or a small cafe or a small restaurant. They usually have 5 or 6 suppliers and they usually have payment terms with one or two of them. By payment terms, I mean they have an arrangement that they collect the inventory now from the supplier, but they pay 30 days later. Okay, that's pretty much the norm. And we've been speaking with dozens of small businesses, and this is pretty much how they operate. 5 or 6 suppliers, one or two of which have a payment terms arrangement. Now, we worked over the last couple of months with several players in the B2B marketplace segment, and pretty much the shift that we want to trigger is going from 5 or 6 suppliers, and you only have payment terms with one or two of them, and that's only for 30 days. So going from this to thousands of suppliers, you have flexible payment terms with all of them, not 30 days, but 60 days with zero cost.
Relevant. And that's why in TBI, we're trying to be, especially with TBI Pay, our brand, we're trying to be 100% relevant. And that's why we build on a Lego approach. We're putting one product on top of the other product, which is something that the merchants appreciate. And that's why we have already 12,000 retailers working with us, because if you just say that, you know, this is what I'm good at, yes, indeed, this may be good enough in the States with 300 million people, but, you know, in a market like Romania with 18 million, or in Bulgaria with 7, or in another market with 6, you need to cover a bigger part of the spectrum with services. And that's why we call our business Merchant Solutions, because we help merchants sell more, and we help merchants address all the issues they may have. And yes, definitely what Andrei described is something which is really important, and it is on our radar as well for the online business.
Thank you. And because we are talking about digitalization and process automatization, and we are living these days some cases of fraud, how do you avoid, Costas, in your company fraud, for example, if you are doing this online?
Without actually boring everybody with many details, but actually it is a combination of a lot of technological components that we need to use, because here it is balancing regulatory requirements. Our markets are more regulated than some Western European markets, where the regulator sees this the obligation of the financial institution to take care of its own business, whereas in some other markets, the regulator is writing on ink exactly the steps that you need to follow for you to be compliant. Therefore, in order to be instant in terms of approval and also to be regulatory compliant, you have to use a lot of technology. And we use biometrics, we use artificial intelligence, we have a scorecard which is also based on the machine learning business. We use multi-data sources. So therefore, if we speak specifically for the online business, we don't base actually our profiling of the customer on his demographics. Actually, we don't do any demographics. So we actually base it on his transaction profile. And this has to take place in milliseconds and seconds in order for us to be able to give the approval on the spot and instantly. So therefore, this is a business that you need to invest in terms of technology if you want to do it competitively and to do it paperless and to do it instantly. And it's a different combination of anti-money laundering tools, a different combination of know your customer tools, a different combination of scoring and data gathering. And all of this is actually embedded within our platform in order for us to be instantaneous to the merchant in terms of decision.
So the key is to invest in technology, yes?
It has to be. It has to be. It's an enabler. It's an enabler. Without it, you cannot really offer the service that you can.
So Andrei, you are the expert here. Maybe you'll tell us more.
Yeah. So I mean, what Costas mentioned is obviously 100% right. So I think the interesting point when we talk about B2B is it's at least 3 orders of magnitude more complicated than consumers. And let me just take the KYC example. When you do KYC for a company, you need to check 3 things. You need to identify properly the person, you need to identify properly the company, and then you need to confirm that the person is authorized to represent the company in that circumstance, right? So you need to validate 3 things. And Costas is 100% right. Technology is the key to do this instantaneously, right? If we also look, because you also mentioned fraud and fraud in the context of credit underwriting and avoiding losses, especially in an online product. So in terms of B2B underwriting, for the last, I don't know, at least a few decades, credit underwriting pretty much didn't change. If we look at traditional banks and traditional models, credit analysts always looked at financial analysis, behavioral analysis, and qualitative analysis, right? So perhaps this is quite an opportunity, especially in countries like Romania, but I think this statement is general, for players such as ourselves or such as OmniCredit in Elisa's case to really innovate in this space, try to understand customers better. I think just one example of how we're trying to look at this a bit differently is, yes, we are looking at financials, behavioral items, and qualitative elements, but we're trying to augment that with non-standard sources. And one example I might give is digital footprint. We're really investing a lot of time, effort, and capital in trying to understand the digital circumstance of the client. Did he come from Facebook or Google? Is it an organic lead or not? How do you associate IP and location with the channel from where the client originated? How much time did the client take to fill the application? How much time did he play with the, I don't know, calculator, loan calculator or installment calculator? All of these things are extremely important in terms of gauging digital education, and it's pretty obvious instinctively that they're all also correlated with credit performance. So that's definitely one of the areas that we're really investing in.
Thank you, Andrei. You already gave me some ideas in what to invest next year. Okay, so Jean-Michel, what do you think about fraud?
It's complicated because behind all this information, I fully agree with all the intervenants. Technology is very important, but first, I would like just to precise why the technology is important, because let's start by the customer journey. A customer journey, for instance, in 3-4 times, you go to the checkout, you take your good, and you apply to split your payment on 3-4 times with a solution. Behind, you are transferred to a page where we ask 5-6 fields, and we ask just the customer to fulfill the debit card on the CNP. The rest is already fulfilled. As I explained, the core of a product in Buy Now Pay Later is definitely the customer journey. But as you can understand, with such a customer journey, there is behind a huge challenge in terms of risk assessment on fraud detection. What I believe first is the fact that when you propose something which is very smooth for the customer, first you attract usually if you propose with a big merchant, with a high brand of merchant, I strongly believe that you attract already good profile. So you are not in anti-selection, you attract already good profile. On the fact that you attract good profile, put also the challenge in terms of risk assessment, I will say less complicated that when we go to a customer journey that can be complicated and can maybe attract different type of profile or maybe lower profile. In ONE, so we believe strongly on this, on the impact of customer journey. Additionally, what we are sustained, let's say, by the fact that we are 14 years in Buy Now Pay Later, so we have a big and strong expertise. On the additional point is that as our core strategy was to really facilitate the customer journey, we invest immediately in what we call digital fraud detection. And we bought a few years ago a company totally dedicated to digital fraud. It's called OneTrust. And this company is able to define with a hype. So we talk about technology, so I will not repeat, but I will just give you maybe more the path that we are using. So with we define with high precision to all the different risk level. By one, we usually monitor the basket. So we look at what is the composition of the basket. Usually we also try to make a kind of geographical analysis. So we try to check between the deliver place, the IP address, and all this kind of information. On the where we have also an expertise, but let's say I don't want to go too much in details and to be boring. Usually we also are quite strong in digital consumer profile analysis. So we really try to analyze the strong digital review of the customer on the identity of the customer. And all this takes less than 5 seconds. So yeah, to confirm, technology is very important. Attract good profile of customer, because we have a customer journey very smooth. It's also important. So I would say both combined is probably the solution to have a high level of acceptance and to control the level of fraud that you can have on buy now, pay later.
Thank you. And now, because some of you mentioned that banks should really be afraid about this product, and not only, maybe we will talk about the future about of buy now, pay later, and not only this product, similar products. What do you think will be the future? How future will look like?
The future of buy now, pay later. I don't know. It's complicated to answer to this question, but maybe we can. At least I can say what will be the development. I think in Romania, thanks to what we see in west of Europe, and I think it was also mentioned, we are going more and more on kind of embedded ecosystem where we propose this solution to the customer. For instance, the next step that we took in France, for instance, we developed an ecosystem on an app where, in fact, we propose to the customer to make split payment universal for everyone on everywhere. So this is I would say the trend, meaning that the idea is that in each purchase that you are doing, you should be able, with a simple app, to split your payment everywhere and not be obliged to check if this website has the solution or not. So I think we are moving also to this path where every customer will be able, with a mobile app, to pay everywhere and to make a split payment everywhere. This is my believing in terms of buy now, pay later. And of course, this ecosystem is not limited to retail. Probably, like we were discussing, it will be also for B2B. It will be for we talk about also crypto money. So we are moving certainly to the creation of an ecosystem to propose buy now, pay later universal. This is we are moving. It's already in place. We already see it in west of Europe, let's say. So this is my believing in Romania also.
What do you think? What other products besides credit cards, buy now, pay later, can replace?
Besides credit cards, what buy now, pay later can replace? I think already credit cards, it's already, I will not say that we will replace the credit card. I will say that this is a product that is complementary. Probably the market of credit card will be lower and lower, yes, but I think they can live in complementary. What is sure is that, of course, the traditional lending landscape will have also to move to facilitate also the accessibility of this type of product. But no, I will not say that it will replace. I think every product has its place. Of course, buy now, pay later will have probably a big part of the cake, I will say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Costas, what do you think? Which is the future?
Elisa, I wish I knew the future.
Okay.
Because I would actually position the company in this direction as well. But from what we know right now, it is actually buy now pay later it is a trend. It is a trend which is offering flexibility. It is more, as we said in the beginning, more flexible. It's more transparent. And I'm not talking specifically again buy now pay later, which is online installments. I'm talking about generally buy now pay later. So I think Andrei got it in the beginning when he said that in reality, buy now pay later is replacing the need to go somewhere to get money to make a purchase. So the more ambiguous it becomes, the buy now pay later, either in an in-store environment, either in online, either it is a small ticket like 20 euro, or it is a car of 20,000 euro. Why not a mortgage later on when you want to buy your house? And this is something which has been started to be built. That in reality you want to buy a house, therefore you can do everything through the app. You don't need again to make the journey. So indeed, the market will become much more competitive, even in Romania, in terms of lending, in terms of either startups or new schemes taking business away from traditional banks, which are not investing in this direction. So there will be a consolidation here, and actually banks will have to keep it in the radar. Maybe not immediately in the next month, but it has to be in the radar that customer preferences are shifting, and they're going into this embedded or agnostic, even agnostic finance. Now, in terms specifically of buy now pay later, if we discuss about e-commerce financing, or if we discuss about medium to small tickets, then yes, then what Jean-Michel said, it is true. It is the next level will be, which is in our roadmap, to have an agnostic approach, meaning that you don't need to be integrated with a specific retailer. It is actually in your hands, and you can purchase anything with installments. And one step further, you don't even need to be a customer of PBI Bank to do that, because actually you'll be able to get this wherever you are in your mobile. So this is, let's say, the near future for buy now pay later in this specific mode. Of course, we need to keep in mind that whatever we're discussing now is within this regulatory environment, because obviously regulators, and especially across Europe, they are looking into the practice of buy now pay later overall. And this is something to keep in mind, that we as an industry, let's say, in terms of buy now pay later, we need to be responsible in terms of the approach we're having towards lending, because it is not a race to the bottom, meaning who can give the most, the fastest. It is actually doing it in a way that, first of all, you secure the funds of the bank, you secure the retailer as well, because you don't want retailers selling products to fraudsters, by the way, even though they have limited risk. So therefore, we need to keep this balance between being prudent and being, at the same time, on the cutting edge of going forward. So that's how I see the future, at least from my perspective.
Okay, thank you, Costas. Yes, you are right. We are a very regulated market, especially in Romania, and especially for B2B business. So how do you see the future, Andrei, in this area, in this regulated market?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just briefly touch upon a question which you asked a few minutes back, and it really puzzled me, because it's a really good question. Like what other, I actually wrote it down. What other products will BNPL displace in the future? And I'll just give the B2B perspective. Products replace existing alternatives, right? They don't necessarily replace other products, but they replace existing alternatives. So in the case of a small business, existing alternative could be finance from your own, the entrepreneur, the owner finances from his own savings or her own savings, or just don't buy and go bankrupt. That I mean, honestly, if you think about financing working capital for a small business in Romania, 7 out of 8 entrepreneurs don't have formal access to credit.
Almost impossible. Yes.
No, it's almost impossible. So if anything, buy now pay later would not displace another banking product such as a credit card or something else. It will displace and hopefully help some of the entrepreneurs who didn't have any other solution. With regards to the future, I think as a consumer, I'm not going to give my personal perspective. As a consumer, I think it's quite obvious that we live in an age of information overload. And as a consumer, I think there will be a fight for our attention between two possible futures, and one is the future of super apps, a model that has been extremely successful in Asia, and we're starting to see it in Europe and the US, with where financial players, large financial players, are trying to build the next super app and keep adding services to keep us captive in that app. At the opposite of that, it's the embedded future, where we have our existing solutions, right, for buying a vacation, going to Airbnb, buying furniture and home improvement solutions from Leroy Merlin, and having financial product embedded in all of these existing solutions. As a consumer, I would prefer the latter than super apps, because honestly, the last thing I need is another app. I already have, I think, close to 70 apps on my phone. The last thing I need is just another one.
Will come an app to summarize all the apps.
Yeah, exactly. So that's to summarize. I think that's kind of the approach that we have taken at Philbo. So instead of trying to build the perfect super app that will solve everything, we're actively exploring partnerships with companies, with marketplaces, with energy and utility companies, with anyone that has a large database of B2B customers. And we can design through APIs, we can design customer journeys that have a financial element to them that really bring added value to those business customers.
Thank you, Andrei. I think we are at the end of our panel. It's almost an hour we started already. Maybe some of you would like to add something, or has any further question or something?
I think the only, because we're the last panel, the only thing I want to add is a massive thank you to Sergio Cone and the team for pulling this off, given the circumstances. So really congrats for a great event.
Costas?
Likewise, thanks everybody for the patience and staying until this time. It has been a long day and a very interesting actually event, a two-day event. So again, thank you for the interesting discussion. I hope we added one small bit of additional information to the minds of our participants, and thank you on my side.
Jean-Michel?
It's me, the last one. So yes, of course, thank you to the organization to invite us, and thanks for the people that stay still with us this Friday evening. Me, additionally, I would like also to say thank you. I don't know if they are listening us, but I would like to say also thank you to my team that finally made a great job that allow me finally to be there and to talk about my Now Pay Later, because it means that we did a great job to be visible, and I would like to thank them for this, and also to thank the partner that trust us for a solution of Buy Now Pay Later. So if they are listening me, I would like also to thank them for the trust that they give to One regarding the solution that we are offering. And thank you to you for the animation of this panel.
Because we touched this thank you part. Thank you everybody for participation. And let's hope that this pandemic period will end soon, and we will be able to meet in person and to develop our discussions from today. It was very interesting for me also. So have a nice evening. And
thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.